Chapter 16. Leah felt immensely relieved after the conversation with her mother. Dr. Thomas still insisted that she had bone cancer, but at least Leah didn't feel so alone anymore. Just knowing that her mother was trying to be with her brought her comfort. Now all I have to do is kill time until Mama arrives. She hobbled to the rec room using her crutches and discovered that it was full of kids. She could barely stand to look at the ones who were obviously on chemotherapy. Their bald heads and gaunt bodies made her queasy with dread. This might be how she would look in a few months. Leah ended up in front of the Christmas tree. The clean pine scent blocked out the medicinal odors of the hospital. She thought back to when Ethan had strung the lights in the tree branches. She gazed at the elaborately dressed angel ornament and thought over the strange things Charity had told her about angels. Nothing was the way it seemed. Leah had thought angels were just pretty inventions by the creators of fairy tales. Now she half believed they might be real. She had thought that her broken finger and sore knee were no big deal, but she'd been told she had bone cancer. She had thought Ethan and her sisters were backward and strange. Now she thought of them as dear friends whom she would remember as long as she had lived. Nothing was ever the way it seemed. Carefully she broke off a small twig from the towering tree. She wanted to take it back to her room and place it under her pillow so that she could smell its aroma and imagine the snowy woods on Ethan's farm. Maybe by touching and smelling the pine needles she could imagine herself closer to Ethan and the things that he loved. She went to the library, picked up a copy of the Bible, and returned to her room, curious to read about angels for herself. She read several stories, but she could not get a clear picture of these strange heavenly beings. Sometimes they appeared as ordinary people. In other places they were bright lights, striking fear, awe in people. Molly stuck her head in the doorway. "Feel like a visitor?" Leah smiled. "If it's you." "It's me." Molly came inside and pulled out a chair at the table, where Leah was sitting. "You're reading the Bible?" "I figured it couldn't hurt. Charity and Ethan made me curious." Molly nodded. "Are you feeling better today?" "As good as a person can feel after she's been told she has cancer." "It's a bad blow, Leah." "Yeah, just think when people ask what I got for Christmas. I can say bone cancer. How about you?" Molly made a face at Leah's black humor, then said, "Don't forget, I'll be your nurse if you stay in this hospital." "I appreciate that." Leah remembered their conversation about the nurse who had taken care of Molly's sister. "You'll be Mrs. Duncan, won't you?" "Yes, except your case will have a better outcome than Emily's and your grandmother's. All cancer isn't fatal, you know. Many people can be cured, or at least have long periods of remission." Leah wasn't comforted. "If I do have bone cancer, and I have to have chemo, what will it be like?" Molly took a few minutes before answering. When she spoke, her words sounded as though they were coming from a medical text. "You'll be put on a protocol of drugs that will take from 9 months to a year to administer. Most of the chemo is toxic. It kills cancer cells and normal cells. Your immune system will be weakened, so you'll have to be very careful about germs. Even a common cold can land you in the hospital. They'll probably want to surgically insert a catheter in a plastic tube into your chest for administering the chemo. That way you won't have to stick you with needles for every dose. No swimming and no contact sports while you're wearing the device because you might get an infection." Leah grimaced, hating the idea of a tube protruding from her chest. "Will I throw up?" "Sometimes. Some of the drugs are stronger than others. You can experience everything from mild nausea to vomiting." Hearing all this made Leah lightheaded. "Will my hair fall out?" "Yes, you can wear a wig until it grows back, and it will grow back, Leah. The hospital sponsors seminars for cancer patients to help them cope, and to help them look good and feel better about themselves throughout their treatments. You'll learn makeup tricks and get clothing tips." "Whoopee," Leah said without enthusiasm. Molly smiled. "Any other questions?" "Not right now. I think I know more than I want to know." Molly leaned forward. "I have a question for you." "Sure, ask me anything." "Tell me about Gabriella." Leah was caught off guard. "What about her? I mean, she's your friend, isn't she?" Molly shook her head. "I don't know her." "Are you serious? She's on the night shift. I thought you knew her." Molly's expression looked guarded. "I know everybody on every shift. There's no Gabriella on our staff. But I've talked to her. She came into my room at night. Actually, she visited Rebecca first, and then she started talking to me when Rebecca was leaving. This troubles me, Leah. I've never met the woman, and there's no record of her in our personal files." A creepy sensation inched up Leah's spine. "That's weird. Very weird," Molly agreed. "Listen, you need to alert us if it happens again. Push your call button no matter what time of day or night." Leah frowned, but she's been really nice to me. She would sit by Rebecca's bed all night when she was scared. Nurses have got time to sit by a patient's bed all night. The night shift staff is minimal. There's plenty of work to do. But why would she do it? Leah watched Molly's face as she considered the question, as if deciding how much she should say. I don't want to frighten you. Too late. Molly leaned forward. There are some strange people in the world, and most of the time they are harmless. Some of them like to hang around hospitals, fantasize about being nurses and doctors. Goodness knows why. There's nothing very glamorous about our jobs. Anyway, these people sometimes sneak into hospitals and pretend to be part of our community. Once we had a woman who haunted the neonatal ward where the newborns are. She would sneak in and try to hold the babies. We tightened security and caught her. She went to a psychiatric hospital. And you think this Gabriella is some kind of nutcase too? I don't know what to think, but you and Rebecca are the only people who've seen her, and since Rebecca's gone, she may come back and visit you again. She already has. What? Molly sat bolt upright. When? The night Rebecca left. I ran into Gabriella in the rec room. She walked me back to my room and stayed with me until I fell asleep. Grim-faced Molly shook her head. I'm having security beefed up. What does she look like? Leah closed her eyes to get a clearer picture of Gabriella. She's pretty. Her hair is short and reddish. I think her eyes are brown. She's about your height and size. She opened her eyes and saw Molly's worried expression. I don't think she'd harm anybody, Molly. Probably not, Molly said slowly. Still, she doesn't belong up here. I don't like the idea of anyone sneaking in at night and bothering our patients. Well, if she shows up again, I'll push my call button. Good. Now let me go and have a talk with security. Molly stood and told Leah not to worry and left. Leah shuddered. What a crummy day this had turned out to be. She learned about the horrors of the chemo and about a weirdo stalking the halls at night. A weirdo only she could identify. Still, try as she might, Leah couldn't picture Gabriella doing anything mean, and she didn't want her to be turned into security. You better not come and see me again, Gabriella, she muttered under her breath. Then she clicked on the TV and turned the volume up to chase away the chills she felt. Leah spent most of the next day reading, playing video games, and watching TV. She wanted to keep her mind as busy as possible. When her mind did veer to the subject of cancer, she quickly shut out the frightening thoughts and grabbed something else to do. After dinner, she was settling down for the night. She heard a commotion in the hallway. Moments later, her door swung open, and there stood her mother, her face flushed from the icy December air, wearing a long fur coat and a look of steely determination.